Good morning, everybody. We got a little careless whisper going on, in more ways than one. We have a interesting controversy. Good morning, everybody. Of course, this is Two Queers in a Truck. I'm Jenny-Jaymes Gunn.
I'm Christian Cano.
And we have an interesting topic today. It's about ethics in the city council, and the reason I played Careless Whisper is because this definitely is a careless whisper moment where some people are probably never going to dance again.
Mm-hmm.
We have our council person, Julie Islett, and a controversy with Cade Lee and Reverend Mack. And I don't know Julie well at all. I mean, I've been in the same room with her. But I am very good friends with Cade Lee. I've got mad respect for him. I actually helped him at the ballot box campaign on the primary day when he ran against the incumbent George, I'm blanking on his name.
Dunlap.
Yep. And then, Reverend Mack, I have tremendous respect for what she does in our community. She's a phenomenal leader and an inspirational woman, and they're in this big ethics thing, and they filed these ethic charges against Julie Islett, and I guess we'll talk about it more as we're getting driving, but it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll talk briefly about the RNC and the 11 apostles, the 12 apostles. How many were there? There are 12 apostles. 12
in the Bible.
Yeah,
and
12 in
11 here in Charlotte. One of them went, I guess, AWOL. Maybe Peter had already denied Jesus and disappeared. Was it Peter that denied Jesus? Which one was it? Like before dawn, you're going to deny me 3 times? I think it was Peter, wasn't it?
No, it was... God, we should know this.
We should, but we don't.
It was... We'll figure it out. Okay, if you're watching this and if you know who...
post on our day.
It wasn't... I'm thinking of Caesar, Brutus.
Paul.
No, it wasn't Paul. Was it Paul? No, it could be Paul.
I'll Google it. I'll Google
Maybe it was Peter, Paul, and Mary. One of those two. Which one is it? Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Peter, Paul,
I don't
Mary.
know.
I don't know. We better get to driving.
Yeah, okay, so we're not going anywhere specifically. We're just going to drive around for a while because there's so much craziness going on in Charlotte.
Go to South Park.
Oh yeah, but that's just right around the corner. So
yeah, we can just drive around.
Yeah, we'll drive around. Okay, so we're going to drive. Oh, it's Peter. No, it wasn't Peter. Phil. Peter was the one who founded the Catholic Church. So. Okay, we'll Google it.
Peter was long since dead when the Catholic Church didn't form until like 400, 500 AD.
Obviously, we're not theologians.
No, we're not.
We are...
Especially me.
Welcome to Two Queers in a Truck. We are going to be driving around. If you saw our first show, we were talking about how we felt about the RNC and so forth, and now we're just going to talk about what's going on in Charlotte City, about the ethics, and about... the ethics complaints against Julie Islett, who's basically, Julie is saying they're lying.
I didn't do it.
Yeah, I didn't do it. It wasn't me.
Or she's
doing
more the Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
She's not doing the George Bush. She's really doing the Bill Clinton.
Yeah. I didn't have sex with that woman.
What is
racist?
What is racist?
Yes, exactly.
What is
racist?
What is the definition of racism? What is, almost like she goes on camera and does the finger wag like he did. I did not say a racist remark, and neither did my child.
Well, all I could say, and we'll talk about it.
It was Apostle Peter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay. So thank you for Googling it.
Now Philip was right.
Okay.
So I guess he paid attention to class.
Philip periodically gets very theologian-ish at night, right? So, all right. So let us go. We'll drive, and let's make sure we got gas, all that kind of stuff. So there is this, this ethics thing that's going on, and I don't know if you know what happened, the actual event that happened. What happened?
So Philip said, I'm Catholic. I deny Jesus every Saturday night.
Oh, well, that is not a lie.
I love that, Philip. Thank you for saying that. That is hilarious.
So there is truth.
He goes, that's what we do.
It's almost like Southern Baptist, When you see your Southern Baptist friends at the liquor store or at the porn store on Saturday night, you act like you don't know.
That's why you go one county over.
Oh, so, that's true. Yeah,
so,
that's right.
True story. So my mama owned, she's retired now, and leases out her restaurants, but she owned a steakhouse outside of Amarillo. And they had this one main room, and then they had this side room that has primarily booths, but they call it the Baptist room. That way the good Baptists can go and eat a steak and drink beer, and they can't, and they're not as visible because they're not in the main room. So they always joked and called that the Baptist beer room, or the Baptist room. And so, you know, and they were in the county, but they were outside of Amarillo. So all the good Amarillo Baptists could go outside the city limits and go and drink and not be seen by their other parishioners. Or if they were, they're going, well, you're drinking too. Because, you know, it's kind of a sleazy roadhouse, kind of a bar, steakhouse. It's still there. It's operated by a different person that leases it from my mom, but it's been there for like 30 years. But anyway, we get off the subject.
Well, so do you know about what actually happened? What started this? The ethics thing?
Well, I mean, it happened in 2019.
Yes, so it happened May 2019.
It happened last year.
Yeah.
And I read the article, and this is the first I've heard of it.
I heard about it right after it happened.
Really?
I mean, literally, like about an hour after it happened, Cade.
Last year?
Yeah, last year. About an hour after it happened, Cade posted on Facebook. So, you know, he was just shocked that it happened.
I guess I missed it.
And so we all heard about it happening, and then Minister Mack really didn't say anything until like maybe a couple of weeks later. I heard her talk about, you know, she has other things she worries about. She doesn't worry about Julie Eisel. So, you know, the way Julie Eisel...
Well, she's the president of the NAACP.
Exactly, and she's always got issues that she's, you know, dealing with. But Julie Eisel, to show how privileged, how white victim Julie Eisel's trying to play, she always plays this way, is she's basically saying that, oh, Minister Mack has a vendetta against me because I didn't fund. Minister Mack doesn't give a crap about you. She's got other, like, real black lives that she's worried about.
And I think, and I read the article, and I saw that, you know, Tark also jumped in and was talking about the ethics.
Tark. Lady T.
Which is interesting because he's also under an ethics investigation too. Like, you know, and again, these things are under investigation. It's not been decided or even, and I'm not even sure what the ethics investigation actually can do. I think it's more it's more of just an oversight thing to say, hey, we've looked into it and we're holding people accountable. But I don't even think it has any real teeth.
No,
they can't even really be removed from office.
No, it doesn't. But like with Tariq, I think it's important because he actually tried to con taxpayers, or allegedly. With Julie, it's important because it's important as a Democrat that we know if she's a bigot. Now, we've heard.
I mean, I'm not saying, I'm not poo-pooing it, but I think at the end of the day, I do like the fact that a private citizen can file an ethics thing against our deal, and I'm glad that the city of Charlotte has this in place. I do hope it's followed up on. No matter how it comes out, I'm glad that at least Cade and Reverend Mack had an opportunity to say something about it.
To expose
it, have it in a public forum. I hope there's a lot of transparency. I hope it's taken serious. I hope that all parties get their say, including Julie. But I think her to absolutely deny that she said that is a really bad move on her part. You know, and it definitely is going to get the Tin File Hat Award this week. I mean, because they're making it sound like a conspiracy theory that they're out to get her.
Exactly.
And then
you're gonna get her. You're gonna get her.
A Republican and a person of color. So this is the most delicious thing is he's kind of backhandedly defending Julie Eisel that is a Democrat. And then he's a person of color. But yet this accusation of racism comes up, and he's to defend the person that has allegedly said the racist comment. And so there is an irony, almost like a conflict of what is your moral compass thing, because whether Julie said it or not, you have two people that as far as I know, in every interaction I've ever had with Kay and Reverend Mack, have always been of a high ethical standard.
Exactly.
I know what Cade does on a weekly basis of how he goes and is very active in women's issues. He's very active with Korean.
Yeah.
He does a tremendous amount of work, and just that alone, he does other things too.
Yeah.
And he's an activist at heart, an advocate at heart, a good, giving human being. Reverend Mack is one of the most powerful advocates in our city, a fierce spirit, an amazing, intelligent woman, and just a godsend to this community.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a pillar of this community. So you got two very solid human beings saying this, and they're saying the exact same story.
Right. Well, what's I think, I'm sorry to hit you like that, but I think it's really interesting is what Julie is doing is exactly what women have been fighting against for a long time. When someone tells you what they feel happened, and to say, oh, that didn't happen, that's how men used to deny sexism, abuse. No, I know, but deny. And it's almost because Julie's a bit, I'm going to use this parallel only because Julie is a big police supporter. She doesn't believe in good police. She believes in more police, which is what I have against. We don't agree with.
But we do need to call, like I say, even though she's a Democrat, she's a dino. She's a Democrat in name only.
Yes. And so she's doing like you don't have the video. You can't prove it. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where now you're going to have to record every conversation you have to prove, because basically what she's banking on, I'm a white privileged white woman, a Jewish white woman, who the white gays love me, the white lesbians love me. Are you going to believe me? Are you going to believe that young white guy and the black woman?
Yeah.
Basically, so instead of being the adult in the room, which I guess they all could, be adults in the room, but they're saying this is how I felt after I left that, and this is what she said. She could have easily said, "I'm sorry if my words were misunderstood. I'm sorry if I offended people.
Or
I
just apologize.
Exactly.
Just apologize because here's the
hell freeze over before she apologized.
And it's always the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
It's always the wrong thing to do. And I get it if she actually committed a crime and is protecting her Fifth Amendment rights,
Yeah.
like they're accused of her stealing or something like that. But she had it is a crime against humanity to be a racist. I think she tripped over her words. If I'm reading what she said right, and if it's pretty close to what she said, then it was really just a deal of being very stupid. At the very least, and being inconsiderate. And then she needs maybe some education. Maybe she needs to sit down with especially people of color, like brown and black people.
Well, that's kind of
and have a real conversation on colonizer language, on deal, and just go, you need to be more aware of what comes out of your mouth, considering the power that you have.
She needs diversity training. She of all people probably needs it the most on the dais.
And I think we all do. I mean, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for you.
No, I do. That's why I go to so many events, because I'm trying to learn from people. And what I've said about her is, I go to a lot of events, and I go to not just events on this side, but majority on events on other areas. And the few times that I have seen her at a Latinx event, which you never see her at she just doesn't go to neighbor of color events. She doesn't like to be around them. That's the only thing you can deduce. But she'll show up at a NOW meeting. She'll show up at another meeting where she feels more comfortable with white women being there. But whenever she goes to like the Latin American Chamber or like the candidate forum or things like that, she's always there a very little time. She doesn't like to talk to people. You can tell she doesn't feel comfortable with non-white people.
But that's kind of segues to what was said was basically. And I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't want to sit here and read the article. But basically what she says is that her son is uncomfortable going to a certain part of town.
Because she is.
And that is probably a common sentiment with certain white privileged people. I know my mom's that way. I can speak from experience. When we were driving around Amarillo and we popped into this Latinx market. And my mom was visibly nervous. I'm going, Mom, you owned a restaurant. One of her barbecue place was right in the middle of the center of the Latinx community when she operated that. I'm going, you served that community for 2 decades.
Yeah.
Why are you uncomfortable now that you're
Yeah.
old and tired and you've been watching too much Fox News?
Exactly. Yeah.
And you know, I think that's what gets us in trouble.
Yeah.
Is when we start seeing it as those people.
Yeah. Well, that's the way she.
Less than human.
Well, I can just say
dangerous.
But Jenny, this is kind of what I've always said, because it took me a long time to really understand like the woman's point of view, because I was raised by a single dad. I have one sister, but I have a lot of aunts. But I learned it from their point of view. I never really understood from a different points of view. And I've come to the conclusion that regardless if it's a woman, or a Latinx, an immigrant, an undocumented, a gay person, a transgender person, when someone tells you to your face how they feel or what they, from their lens, believe them.
Yeah.
Don't tell them, no, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
And white people
Or
have a
you're
history
wrong.
have
Or
a
you're
history
wrong.
of
Yeah.
saying, nah, that's not what happened. And so basically what she's saying is these two people are telling you, I left that meeting and this is what I heard and this is how I felt. And she is basically saying, talk to the hand, that's not what happened.
And how much further would it be? How much further along would?
Yeah.
And then the ethics charge probably wouldn't even come up.
Yeah.
Had immediately in 2019
A whole year. She had a whole year to address it.
to come back with and say it on an open forum like Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and just say, I would love to have another conversation with you.
Exactly.
We could even broadcast it live.
But that would take an adult.
And just treat it with total transparency.
Yeah.
If what I said offended you, I apologize.
Well, but
let's revisit it, and let's make sure that we're all on the same table, because we're all three leaders in this community.
Yes.
And I don't want hurt feelings. Most of all, I value both of you.
Exactly.
And if she would have just thrown herself at the mercy, at the feet of Reverend Mack and Kate Lee, two very well-respected leaders in this community, two strong advocates for so many intersections of this community, and I consider both of them personal friends, as do you.
Yeah.
And if she just would have done that, how much further would they have gone? And we wouldn't be having this conversation. This isn't like Lady T's issues, which is whether he's guilty of it or not. There's definitely some smoke. You don't know if there's fire there, but there's definitely some smoke. You know, and there's definitely some questionable business activities through his nonprofit and conflict of interest. This is just one session where, had she been smarter about reacting, and this is what I was talking about at the very end of our show, and I've been doing this several weeks in a row, talking about being smarter how we use our words, especially around impressionable people, young people, people that are listening to conversations of vitriol and hate and just pure anger.
I only because I know Julie. I supported Julie when she ran the first time. I campaigned for her. I donated to her. I held her signs. I got pictures of me, a plethora of pictures of me with her. And I've seen Julie in settings of all where I've been, and I've seen how different she is, how comfortable she is, and it's felt within the African American community that she's been called kind of a bigot under the table, or Republican light, you know, that she only shows up when she's trying to get the endorsement from the Black political caucus, but you never see her around. She feels
more performative.
Yes, very, very. I've never seen her in Latinx communities. I think she's one of those persons who believes that all Hispanic people cut grass. I mean, so someone like me is probably a unicorn to her, because she's like, what is it? And so I could see how she feels, but she has a loyal base of older white gays and older white lesbians. Right. And I said when that article was done and someone had forwarded it to me, that I know exactly what's going to happen. Her supporters, her white gay and older white lesbian supporters, are going to defend her. And everyone else is going to say, well, this doesn't make sense. Why would they purposely lie on you? And even if they just apologize, what's the big deal? So immediately after I posted that, what I felt was going to happen, Chris Turner, who is one of the older white lesbian ladies who I also supported when she ran for city council, she lives in my district, and I have not talked to her but maybe 2 times in like 6 years. You know, I was helping them with Cynthia Wallace and all that kind of stuff. She posted on my feed, not on anyone else's, on my feed. She read the article. She felt like Julie Eisel apologized, and that's good enough for her.
Well,
it's like she didn't even acknowledge what had occurred.
First of all, I didn't ever see Julie actually apologize.
No, neither did I. So I reread the article, and I was like, well, maybe I missed it. I reread it. I thought about posting.
I've read the article 3 times since I saw you post it.
So I thought about,
just to make sure I didn't miss it.
I thought about responding to her and saying, "Can you? Maybe I missed something. Can you share me where the?" That's not her point. Her point was, as a white woman, because she believes she's up here.
Right.
It's good enough for me. So this is all ended. So she's telling all of you black and brown people, I've settled this.
Yeah.
I've settled this.
I have spoken.
And that is the typical Charlotte white woman.
I think it's a Southern thing.
And it's so that it's even leaked into the white older lesbian women that they
I don't
actually
think it ever leaked in. I think that's just the way they are. I mean,
and that it is.
We see that with the white gays, especially what I call the HRC.
Yes.
Out in the front, the face of the LGBT movement.
Yes.
That typically run the prides, run the deals, and we've talked about this several times about the obvious division in the LGBT community. But the LGBT community really has the same problems that our whole society has, which is the white narrative that white people write history. So when people of color, especially, say that's not how it really happened, or you left out this chapter and this chapter, or you left out this black inventor and scientist that got ripped off by this white scientist.
And then she says, and they say, nope, that's not what happened.
Yeah.
That's it. I've settled it. I've settled it.
Yeah,
Why are we talking about it? Zip. That's kind of how they.
Yeah, and to silence black and brown voices.
Yes.
It's just like how we gloss over in history books of the Native American indigenous peoples genocide that as Europeans, the Spanish, the French, and the English colonizers that came in here and just slaughtered societies of people, and then took indigenous people from the continent and brought them over here and made them slaves. And I'm just like, the hypocrisy of how we've treated people of color less than human.
So Jenny, how would you reply? Because I'm not even going to reply to her because I want people to read that.
I do want to clarify one thing.
Yeah.
That Cade Lee, one of the 2 people filing this ethics thing, he's white.
Yes, exactly.
So he's not a person of color. So I do want to clarify out to Facebook land because not everybody that watches this show is from Charlotte or knows Cade. But Cade's a very young 21-year-old activist here in Charlotte that ran for office and does a lot of amazing things, but he's white. So it's not a black male that's accusing Julie. It is a white male.
Exactly.
And so and so you got one of your own saying, hey girl, because Julie's a Democrat, Cade's a Democrat, he ran as a Democrat for county commissioner, saying, you said this, it made me uncomfortable, and I'm white.
Exactly.
I'm white.
Exactly.
So, and I hear some politicians talk and some, especially conservatives talk, whether they're conservative Democrat or conservative Republican, because a lot of people don't realize there are conservatives in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, and there's a lot of racists in the Democratic Party.
There's a ton of racists. I mean, the Democratic Party actually was the home of racism before the Republican Party was. And then we saw this shift as Dixiecrats go over to the Republican Party because they felt more comfortable.
So how would you feel if you were, let's say you were saying kind of what you were saying?
Yeah.
American history has whitewashed this, and you're saying what you're saying.
Right.
And then someone like Chris Turner, a white, older lesbian woman who lives behind a gated community because she's so afraid of not just other black and brown people, she's afraid of other white people. She lives off Colony Road with our precinct chair. They're all afraid of even other white people, which is why they live behind a gated community. Not the brown and black people, they're just afraid of them. So it's really interesting that you, let's say you said something,
right,
and then she would come out and say, no, I've read the history books and I'm fine with the way it's written. That's basically that's like her saying, I'm the ultimate authority in history, and I'm going to put my 2 cents into it. And instead of just saying nothing, I'm going to tell you
what to think.
Well, and maybe she's gotten away with it in the past, and no one has said, listen, you big old dyke, what the fuck are you? I mean, and that's really, she has forgotten that she used to be called a dyke.
Oh,
she used to be
Philip
called...
said one thing that was important. He said, speaking of the RNC speech, Melania did actually visit Ghana and felt bad and educated herself about the slave trade, she said last night. That's interesting. I didn't watch any of Melania's speech, so I really can't speak to that. But to your point, is that's what's gotten us in trouble.
Hold on, we got to wave. Hey boys, where's your mask? Hey firefighters.
But I think that's what's gotten us in trouble is this whole white denier. I mean, we talk about the COVID masks, we can talk about the reopen crowd, but it's all kind of the same crowd. I mean, as we've seen with the picketers here in town, to segue into that. But does it 11 guys.
But does it make sense to? I know we and I have talked about this before, but does it make sense that people who were marginalized before, like an older white lesbian who's had to put up with people calling her dykes, butch dykes, and whatever, would not defend other marginalized communities? And that's really...
It just doesn't happen, though, if you're white.
Well that's my...
If you're white and powerful...
Yeah.
If you're white and powerful, it doesn't matter what your sexuality is or your gender. Caitlyn Jenner's proven that. We have the local crowd. Is that once you've arrived... And we've even seen this in the Latinx community, where you've seen fair-skinned arrival, not even new arrivals, but people that are now second generation,
who suddenly,
and all of a sudden they're looking at their darker, browner siblings, Latinx siblings coming over, and they're going, well, we did it the right way, and if they're not going to do it the right way, screw them. The door's slamming shut on you.
Exactly, yeah.
And we see this and we see this in the LGBT community, where a lot of older white lesbians don't like trans women, especially trans women of color, never come to defend us. And we see that TERF type action, which is trans exclusionary radical feminists. And you see it when people have arrived, they forget to look back and stick out their hand and help other people. And it is more, it's not just racism. I think it's kind of like there's this detachment or disassociation with the real world. And when you see people, and I've dealt with this people in my personal life, where they've had privilege for so long, whether it's earned privilege or unearned privilege, that at some point you get so high up in the ivory tower, you forget what it was like. If you were ever in that space, if you grew up poor and now you're wealthy, I've seen this with so many people. They forgot where they came from, or they forgot what other people's journeys are like.
But Jenny, that's what like, to me, that's the humor in it. For me, I know it shouldn't be humorous, but it's a humor in it. It's humorous to me to see an older white lesbian who may have been called dyke in the past,
absolutely,
to suddenly act like
the prejudice doesn't even exist.
Exactly. No, and so it's I mean, to me, I wish she had family members or loved ones that loved her enough, or not, and I'm just using her because I hadn't heard from her in a long time, and she dared to post it on my page. And so I wish she had loved ones enough to say, lesbian, please. Who the hell? Just because you live behind you're still a fag to many people in Charlotte.
Exactly.
And so for her to suddenly, I mean, and she had to put her 2 cents, but she had to defend Julie.
But white conservatives, straight people, aren't going to accept her. They never accept her. They might say nice things. Like, I get a lot of people in the LGBT community that say, the lesbian and gay white people, especially, powerful people, people in positions like, the HRC, Quality North Carolina.
Girl, after the show, we're never going to speak of the HRC.
No.
At least until the young ones take over. I'm joking.
And I'm saying this in generalization, that I realize that a lot of them tolerate me rather than accept me. It's not lost on me. And at the same time, I don't really care. I mean, you know, I don't need, like we were talking about earlier about
don't
your
need
friend
the validation.
Fud, I don't need your acceptance.
Yeah.
I need your acknowledgement that prejudice exists in our own community.
Yeah.
And I need you to, once you start acknowledging it, then we can go to work with fixing it.
Yeah.
And this is the whole bottom line, both with Lady T and the whole ethics thing.
Yep.
And Julie Eislet's alleged racist comment. I think with both cases, both of them are still alleged. Nothing's been proven yet. But in both cases, if they would sit down and just be transparent and have really important conversations to help solve problems. So let's say Lady T did not do anything wrong.
Yep.
Oh, they lost their suitcase.
Oh no.
And or somebody lost their suitcase.
It popped out of their trunk. They didn't close it all the way.
Did she realize that she'd left her suitcase?
I think someone just told her. Yeah.
Yeah, your suitcase.
Yeah. She must not close the trunk all the way.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like,
when she took off, it popped out.
Yeah.
So.
Didn't latch it fully.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, we were driving
That's
down
like my
South
biggest
Park
fear.
and all that, and somebody just let their suitcase fall out of the back of their hatchback of their SUV. Yeah, she's flipping around. Oh, how embarrassing. But anyway, I think if this is what gets a lot of politicians and public figures in trouble. We just saw this with Jerry Falwell Jr. and his wife.
We gotta talk about that, but go ahead.
But we're talking about it. This one's really delicious.
Go ahead. So hold on a second.
But I think so many people, if they would just own their own chicanery and fuckery and hijinks, and just say, you know, for example, you know, I'm very transparent about how I live my life.
Yeah.
If you look at my Instagram, you'll see what a freak show I really am. But I own it. And I think that's what people admire, and they say, you're just so brave. And I go, no, I just own it so that people 10 years from now go, well, you kept that all in the closet and you didn't show that wild side. I'm going, no, if you go back to my Instagram 10 years from now and look back through my history and go, golly, did she fly that freak flag?
And that's and I think that's what people like Julie Eisel and Charlotte and the white kind of privileged, they're not used to people calling them out.
But we're in a call out culture right now.
Well,
we're in a video camera,
but it's also
social media call out culture.
But also, Jenny, just to show you the hypocrisy, just from my own personal, because I know this situation and I know my communications with Julie Eisel. And I do think that she has some fears of people that are different. You can tell in her body language and how she votes and how she talks. And she has this misunderstanding of undocumented and documented people and the Latinx community. And we don't even talk about the Muslim community or Indian communities. But she really has bonded with the white older community because it's like one of those.
It's like her people. Yeah, it's who she grew up with.
It's like a person who says, "Well, I have gay friends, so I can't be prejudiced."
Yeah, but I think really what the heart of the matter is why we push for desegregation. Yeah, we love different events, diverse events. I think that's why the diversity of events in Charlotte are so important, like the Turkish celebration and the Latinx
which
celebration.
you would never see Julie at those issues.
And you need to go to those. And you need, if you're going to be a community leader and an advocate and an advocacy, you need to immerse yourself in as many diverse events as you can. And here's why. It doesn't mean you're endorsing them.
Yeah.
What it means is that you're taking that first step to meet them halfway.
Exactly. Yeah.
And say, I want to know more about your community. I want to know more about the Turkish American community that's here in the United States and in Charlotte that I didn't even know existed. Yeah. And I go to all kinds of stuff, and so do you. Yeah. And so we had that young lady on our show last fall. Yeah, and we need to do stuff like that. That's how you learn. That's how you. I learned so much about Turkey in that hour that we had her on the show.
And the relationship between the political environment
and so much about inside Turkey and also what Turkish Americans go through here in this country. And it was powerful. It made me look at that community different from hearing it from their own voice, so their stories matter. And when a Reverend Mac speaks up and says, is brave enough to know that she's going to get pushback.
Yeah.
And she knows she's going to get, and Kate Lee knows they're going to get pushback.
Well, basically what Reverend Mac basically said in the article too, and I know Reverend Mac, and Reverend Mac is the same everywhere I go. She doesn't put a different personality on against white people or black people, Latinx. She is because I mean her attitude, yes, she is, and you don't always get that, and so she's not any different than what she is. But what I was going to say was, when I called Dan McCready a pussy, Julie Issa was the first person to go on social media and say, oh, you need to apologize to women and this, and all of her white gay people and the white lesbians, these same people that are defending Julie Issa. And I wasn't even elected. I was running for office. This is a person who is elected, and they're not asking her to apologize.
And here's the difference.
Had I known, all I had to say was, I didn't write that. Someone hacked my account.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is the thing it's the
hypocrisy. It's
if we would just if everybody again would just own what they do. And speaking of that,
and I apologized. I said, after I attended the Now meeting, I realized that was not appropriate, and that's why I started going to Now, because I really wanted to understand what I said was it was not the appropriate thing, and I had to swallow my pride, because I could have just as well have said, I stand by what I've said, and that's how I felt at the moment. But I said what I said was inappropriate. It offended some people, and I apologize. And I needed to learn from that. I needed to learn that growing up with 3 brothers or 2 brothers and a dad, we talk in a guy language that may not be appropriate to talk about in women. And granted, I said it as if that meant something negative. My straight brothers would have said, well, that's the strongest thing there is. So, it depends on them, but that it should not. So I use the word mangina. Sorry.
Which is problematic, but we'll get into that.
Okay, all right.
That's a totally different show.
That's right.
But again, the difference was you went back and you owned it.
Yes.
You owned it.
I had to, and I did, yeah.
And you could have used the power of your show. You could have used the power of your voice and just squished it and go, I'm not going to back down.
Yeah.
And I'm right and they're wrong. And I think that's where we get into trouble.
Yeah.
Is just like with this Jerry Falwell story.
Yeah.
The Jerry Falwell Jr. and his wife allegedly have this swinging relationship for 7 years, and I think it's already ended. I think it ended a couple years ago.
Okay, so we're not supposed to fat shame people. Can we ugly shame people? Because have you seen Jerry Falwell's wife?
She's kind of cute.
Well, the picture I saw.
I guess they used a different picture.
Yeah, the angle of the picture.
Anyway, so they groomed this guy, and I want to get his name right. His name is Giancarlo Granata.
He was they met him at the pool at the Fontainebleau, Hilton Fontainebleau. He was 20
years old at the time.
In Miami.
And he wanted to start up this youth hostel in Miami.
No, what it was he was at the pool, and there were some young girls hitting on him.
Yeah.
And the wife of Jerry Falwell, started talking to him saying, these young girls don't know what they're doing in bed.
Right.
And that's how she started hitting on him.
Correct.
And then after they had agreed, I guess, to have sex or whatever, she said, oh, by the way, my husband likes to watch. And that's how the relationship started. So it started, and then they invested in like a business with him.
Yeah, the youth hostel. They helped him invest, and they had this sexual relationship.
Yep.
Allegedly, according to Mr. Granata, for 7 years, and then I guess whatever reason they had a business falling out or a disagreement on this or whatever. So the throuple that they were ended, and supposedly Jerry Falwell Jr. loved to watch. We don't know if he ever recorded any of those sessions or not. But he definitely watched with great interest. And they said, they did this a couple times a year, 2 or 3 times a year, which means they probably did it a whole lot more.
Yes. Yeah. But do we have to preface what the Falwells do in their private life is their business.
Oh, absolutely.
The reason this is so scandalous and salacious is because they're such freaking hypocrites.
Oh yeah, I mean,
they are the ones that are preaching this moral high ground that gays.
Well, just like his dad did.
He
was a big advisor to Ronald Reagan,
and then said, "I have sinned."
And they crafted.
That was Jimmy Swaggart. That's right. You're right.
Yeah, and that's a whole different story. Which I still can't believe people follow Jimmy Swaggart after that.
Well, who follows Franklin Graham?
Everybody. A whole bunch of psychos do.
Yeah, that's my point. You got to be a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs to follow Franklin Graham.
But Jerry Falwell Jr., the president, or he's now not the president of Liberty University. Mm-hmm. But you look at these guys and gals, and you like you said, they're anti-LGBT. They're usually racist. They're usually very homophobic, very xenophobic, and.
But they did like him because he was one of the good Latinos because he's Cuban. He was he
was a business partner too. Yeah. And they helped invest into his dream.
Yeah.
And then which is really, really bizarre how all that went down. And I can't wait till the whole story comes out.
Because
I feel like there's going to be something really sordid and delicious
it's going to come out of it. But what's exciting is exciting insofar as Jerry Falwell Jr. is not the type of person, because he's that type of personality that's not. He's like Bill Clinton. He's like any other white guy who doesn't want to admit all the truth. It's going to have to be pulled out. It's going to have to be pulled out slowly. So of course, originally he resigned, or he had to take a hiatus because his wife was having an affair. And before the other stuff came out, he said, "Oh, this other person's trying to blackmail me. This is." We know there's a lot more to it, just because it has to be pulled out. So by the time it ends, he was recording it in the side, masturbating, and it's going to be it's going to be, and we know it. It's just it's going to have to come out really. I did
want to get a shout out to one of our viewers, Vonnie Cooper.
Oh. Hey, Vonnie.
Fabulous, fierce, strong, intelligent woman. That's a good friend of mine. That is talking about. It comes back to white supremacy and telling people what is right and what is wrong. And there's a ton of hypocrisy, as she's saying, and it really is. If we all pulled back the veil of secrecy in our society, and this is to everybody, I'm speaking to everybody on this one. If we would all live our life very apologetically and very transparent, what a different world we would have.
But
if we would all own and not sex shame people.
But Jenny, this is
kink shame people.
But this is the reason. This is the reason I think it's not going to happen for a while. And the reason I think it's because we have gone through so long of white privileged people in all of our families.
Supremacy is what we should say. Yeah.
We've gone through so long of Julie Isles, of Chris Turners, the white lesbians who, and I found this unscientifically, but I've started to really understand the trend. Anytime I post something about something, regardless of what it is, I don't have Latinx people post something. I don't have my black brothers and sisters. It's always a white woman. It's always a white woman that has to put. I gotta let you know what you're saying is wrong, and it drives them crazy to not be able to say something that they have to say, even if they haven't talked to you in forever. And even progressive white women, they feel it's their right or their privilege to say. And so I find it both amusing, but I also find it interesting that they have. And so this is a very challenging time for them too, because now they see other people calling them out and saying, "Who the hell asked you?"
But I think I got the answer for you.
Go ahead.
And it's really a twofold answer. It's one. We had 8 years of a black president.
Yep.
Which took a mirror and put it under every white person and said, "Oh shit.
Yep.
We elected a black man."
Mm-hmm.
And all the hoopla that came around him being a black man and a person of color.
Yep.
And we had to analyze our own overt and covert racism and white supremacy as white people.
Yep.
And I'm speaking for white people.
I'm a white person.
And
I lived one.
And I can personally say that it created a level of discomfort because for the people, for us white progressives, we had to analyze how we operate.
Yes.
Which, like somebody like Chris Turner.
Yeah.
We also had to analyze our language, and it started conversations that whether we were ready for it or not, it's coming. And most importantly, and you've said this on the show many times, is that white people are steadily becoming a minority in this country, and especially white men. And we all know it. We all know that the changes are happening. But we're still in that denial.
Yes.
We're still in the denial, like we're still in 1776, and it's George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and all these white people are in control. America is not just a white country anymore. It's not just a Christian country anymore. It is a melting pot, the way it was intended to be. And it's beautiful.
I think it's wonderful.
It's beautiful to see the biggest box office star, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, is our Tom Cruise of our time.
Our Bruce Willis.
Or Bruce Willis.
Yes,
and every movie he does is gold. And he's a person of color. He's half Samoan and half black. And amazing and charismatic and beautiful. And I absolutely have a girl crush on him.
It sounds like you do have a crush on him.
We could do a whole show just on Dwayne Johnson. And anyway, but most of all, as Vonnie just said, they're afraid of losing control. Control's an illusion.
Yes.
Control's an illusion. And the more you try to hold on control, the more you strangle freedom.
But it is,
and very important, white people are in delusion that they ever were in control.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is the thing. We're never in control of anything. We're never in control of others. We can't control what other people do. And that's the whole point of freedom. Is that if we really want to have a democracy, we really want to promote freedom, one, mind your own damn business. Mind your own business. Mind your own business. Stay out of people's bedrooms and bathrooms. Don't worry about where I go to pee. Don't worry about who I sleep with.
I am
Don't
amused.
worry about who I marry. If I want to marry a black woman or a black man or what. I mean, we used to have laws in the book that a white person couldn't marry a black person. I mean, how crazy is that happened not that long ago than the Loving versus Virginia case. And we are so insanely caught up in like what Vonnie said, that they're afraid of losing control, and that is the absolute truth. Because number one, it's more than just money; it is power. And so many people, like a Julie Islett or a Tariq, they're so afraid of losing their own little kingdom or fiefdom or whatever.
Well, I do think that Julie Islett and Lady Tariq and Chris Turner, they all have one thing in common. They're all white women.
Well, except for Lady Drake.
That was my joke.
Yeah, I know. But I'm telling you, Lady T would still make a fabulous, gorgeous drag queen.
If you just get rid of that damn beard, it's just like, I think that's why it grows the beard.
I love drag queens that have glitter beards. I think Lady T could rock.
And
I'm telling you, I wish he would. I know he won't because he's Republican. If he's a Democrat, we may be able to talk him into it.
So do you think him and his wife just bump pussies all the time, or just...
no, we don't need to go there.
All right. I had to throw a little shade there. So
dang it, this is why we can't have anything non-Christian, because we were going all good till you take it just a little too far. I'm not going to speculate on his sexual proclivity.
Because he's such a damn drama queen. It's like... It's just so unusual. I know we talked about this 5 or 6 shows ago about how Republican men today are just like these big whiny drama queens.
They are drama queens. They always have been.
And you can't help but go, God, are you?
Here's the thing.
What's going on?
They always have been. They always have been. So the Jerry Falwell Senior.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Can I get a McDouble?
We're doing our traditional.
A McChicken.
McDouble, McChicken for you?
Yes, a McDouble, a McChicken, a 6-piece McNugget, a small fry, a basket of fries, a large Diet Coke, and a large unsweet iced tea.
¿De viaje for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Any sauce?
No, thank you.
Okay, so you said the 6-piece chicken nuggets, mashed chicken small fry, pasta the fry, and 2 drinks.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You come into the free window, please.
Thank you. This McDonald's compared to the one that we normally go over there, Pineville Matthews, is so much better as far as the people here are so friendly. So right when I say that, let's see if I prove myself correctly. But every time I've ever come here, the reason I don't come here is because Catholic High School is across the street and it's always so busy.
Yeah.
But if you do come here at other times, and their ice cream machine's always working, and it drives me crazy.
Very important.
Well, you go to I've been to McDonald's where I just want like ice cream, and they're like, "I'm sorry, machine is down."
That is true first world problems.
Yes.
When in America, we can't
get ice cream
machines working.
And we can't
I want
get...
to roll that up.
Oh, sorry.
I have to make sure I take care of Christian.
Yes, that's
make
right.
Sure he rolls up his windows. We don't want anything falling out.
Oh, that's right.
Or falling in, one or the other. But yeah, no, Bonnie thought Lady Tariq she says, I cannot. She's just laughing. But I do think these conservative men, and you saw this with Jimmy Swaggart when he cried on air years ago, and you know, Jerry Falwell Jr. and all these are so dramatic. And I think in this day and age where everybody has a blog and everybody has a camera, and we see into how they behave, and they were like this 50 or 60 years ago too. I think the difference is that with the Google machine and the internets and all that, is it creates transparency. It gives everybody a voice. And like when you see these protests and you see these live recordings from these protests, it's hard to deny history in the making now.
Exactly.
You can't. You like when we were growing up, there wasn't any camera phones. And can you imagine if there was, how much trouble we'd have gotten into? And I think our society.
I was a good nerdy kid, though. I mean, I was.
wasn't.
You were.
I played.
You were a very bad rebel rouser. Thank you.
You know, I got away with a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and I really did. I really abused my privilege a lot on the naughtiness and the stuff. And it really, I look back at it now and I go, how white privileged and how privileged I was, because I knew how to say the right things and not necessarily do the right things, but I could put on the airs and work the system. And also because there was no contradictory video of me sneaking out of school in high school or doing this or doing that, and how easy it was to get away with stuff. And it was all harmless stuff. It wasn't. I wasn't going out breaking into cars or anything.
God, I was such a nerd. I was afraid of everything. I was like,
I wasn't,
because I was like, well, I mean, I grew up in a small little community, and you did as well. But it was like, I mean, the whole thing was, I don't want anybody to report to my dad, or you know, how about if someone saw you? So it was. Plus, I was just a.
But I think back in that day, and I was very aware of it, that so many people, and again, this speaks to my white privilege.
Yes.
Was that if I was walking around the hallway of my high school during class, and I had a note, whether it was forged or not, which I'm not going to acknowledge whether I denied it or not.
It's going on your permanent record.
In case some of my old teachers or counselors are watching. I doubt they are. But in case they are, you know, I could walk around any part of my high school. And I almost never got stopped.
Well, hold on. I'm going to try to pull out here.
And I literally could do no wrong. And I was a member of sports teams. I was well known. I was very popular. I was one of the cool kids. And so I had the proclivity to be a mean kid, which I wasn't. But I had a if I was a really mean kid, there's no telling what kind of damage I could have done to people.
Well,
but I never got in.
Yeah.
I never got in trouble. For
I was a pretty square kid. But we changed that. So that's so back to Jerry Falwell. So who are we going to give the tinfoil hat award to?
Oh, Julie Iceland.
Julie Iceland gets a tinfoil hat award.
And Jerry Falwell Jr. gets a co-mention.
Honorable mention. Okay.
And his wife for having a 7-year illicit affair, which I don't care about. If they want to have a 3-way relationship, if they want to be a poly family, that's great. They need to quit sex shaming and kink shaming people.
But doesn't it?
And quit being a bigot.
But it goes back to, and everyone knows this, and we keep peeling the onion off of it, and you would think, and I think we're kind of close to getting there. Anyone who is radical about evangelical, radical, kind of like religious kind of person, yes, it's usually because they're hiding something.
Well,
we all know it. Whether it's FUD, whether it's Julie Iceland, whether it's they're all hiding something.
Lindsey Graham,
Lady Grant, Lady G, Tariq, Lady T. There's all a lot of your the pastors that always get caught doing this.
Oh,
those
Jimmy Swaggart,
are the ones.
Jim Baker. I mean, we go down the list.
And we have to be fair, Catholic priests as well. So
politicians, Dennis Hassard, molesting and raping little boys.
So anytime there is someone who is so openly against someone else,
but we really need to paint it. It's these conservatives.
They're usually conservative.
They're usually 90% of the time. They're usually conservative.
Yes.
They're usually straight. They're usually white men, and they're usually people of power. They're pastors, preachers, politicians, police people that hold some kind of power, some kind of office, and some kind of authority figure. And the more they rail against other people, no matter what it is, the more you need to look into them.
Exactly.
Because you're going, what are you covering up? Why are you projecting so hard? Why are you so angry?
Yeah.
I've never understand the anger against gay people, for example. We saw this the other day with those two Republicans squaring off with each other. Yeah. The anger and the vitriol between those two men, two white men of privilege,
and we did.
They were just shredding, Dirty Santa and the gay Republican male. And he is Dirty Santa.
It is funny, but we didn't talk about it on Coffee and Bandusi, but we can talk about it now. So what was so rich about that, even though I feel sorry for him, was the gay guy. I have seen him since 2016 when I ran for office, and he's been a Trump supporter. He was one of the groups of individuals that started the deplorable gay people. He's friends with the guy that called you Cupcake. Yeah. And they weren't invited to Pride, and I came to their defense and I said, you can ride on my float if you are, march with me. They said no, thank you, because they wanted the publicity of being turned down, the discrimination.
And wanted the drama.
And what they didn't like in me was my stance on immigration, because they're racist. They're just white, gay, racist guys.
But
apparently I was one of the okay ones because I'm a lighter. I don't speak Spanish, and they didn't think I would come out.
Well, you're the highfalutin educated.
I'm the highfalutin. I'm the
You're one of the good ones.
Yeah,
you're one of the good ones.
I don't. So I've known this person, and I've seen this person at rallies that we've been to, whether there's women rallies. He's with his flag, and so for him to go there, I would normally have said, "Now you're getting some of your own medicine." But I really felt sorry for him because of how vile and Bad Santa. Bad Santa. I'm sorry.
Dirty Santa.
Sorry, I apologize.
Not Bad Santa. Because Bad Santa was a movie.
Dirty Santa, and just the vile stuff. And I really felt sorry for him because, there's hurt in his heart because of growing up, hearing that. And I hope that was an awakening experience where he realizes that he's given that same hate to other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if it will, because he really does not like immigrants. You can tell by his stance. You can tell by...
And I think I think it's projecting. I think he probably has a crush on brown or black men. 9 times out of 10 it is.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Is that he likes men of color, but he would never date one because he doesn't want to be one of those.
He doesn't want to sell mama. Mama up in the hills.
He doesn't want to go to
America. I can't. can't be dating any of those Mexicans.
He can't go to his...
One of those Mexicans.
He can't go to one of his Klan rallies and say, well, I'm dating a Latinx dude. and it never...
Yeah.
It was so...
So that was
telling.
hard for me. That was hard for me to watch, to see him being...
I think he deserved that big old shit sandwich, personally. I think as a white LGBT person, and a very progressive person, that if you go, you're supposedly a conservative, and you're hanging out with conservatives, that part and parcel, the Republican Party has written hate bill after hate bill against the LGBT community, whether it's about adoption, marriage, transgender community, no matter what it is. I'm like, what did you expect? Where do you think it comes from? It comes from wing nuts like this dirty Santa.
Yes.
Is that party? The Republican politicians don't wake up one morning and go, I'm going to create a bathroom bill out of nowhere. Where is it coming from? It's coming from the religious nut jobs that are in their party saying, this is what we want. Here's a sack of money to go win the office. But when you get in, you got to pass these bills. We started this year with state houses across the nation at the beginning of 2020, this whole dumpster fire of a year, with them proposing 44 anti-LGBT hate bills in Republican-controlled states. 44 bills in the first 40 calendar days of the year. That includes weekends. So over one hate bill per day was proposed by the Republicans this year. Not in 2012 or 2011 or even 2020, the year of the grinder, and in more ways than one, and so let's get this real. So the Republican Party hates homosexuals
because they are homosexuals, because they're all gay.
And they're closeted.
They're all closeted gay,
except for the uncloseted ones,
who are just. And
then the uncloseted ones go to these rallies and go get hated on by their own.
Which is why they go in the closet.
And I'm going. Well, then that says a lot about conservatives and the Republican Party. Is that when you reject your own, you it says a lot, and most importantly. I'm speaking of Democrats now. We need to learn those lessons. We need to make sure we have our house in order. Because we have a lot of problems too. We saw this with the Senate race in the primary this year.
That's right.
Beginning last year, when they endorsed Cal Cunningham ahead of the primary, over two people of color that were running against him for that deal. We see the lack of support for Cynthia Wallace, which is shameful. And even though, to these other organizations' credit, all these non-democratic groups that are progressive groups are really helping Cynthia.
They are.
They are trying to promote her as much as they can.
Exactly.
But the Democratic Party needs to support her the way they did Dan McCready.
Exactly.
And it's not because I'm anti-Dan McCready. It's just that if District 9 was important then,
why is
and this is talking about last year. We're not talking about this was September of 2019 when the special election was held after the Republicans cheated in 2018 and went and picked up mail-in ballots. You would think it'd still be important in 2020, and it shouldn't have changed just because a black woman's running.
That's the reality. And
the truth is, that's shame on the Democrats.
Exactly.
So getting Dan Bishop out is just as important is beating him in 2019 or Mark Harris.
If it was important, if that was the most important election of a lifetime, then it's just as much as
more important because we got Bathroom Dan Bishop in there representing North Carolina and his shameful legacy of bigotry that cost us over $1 billion in revenue in 2016.
So
we don't need him in Washington being our mouthpiece.
I agree.
No matter who's running. And Cynthia Wallace is a very qualified, amazingly talented woman of color that would represent North Carolina in District 9 better than anybody would ever do.
I agree.
And she would be she would be just as great as Alma Adams.
I agree.
And if you love Alma, you gotta love Cynthia. And I so hope she's in Washington D.C. for us. I know I'm voting for her. And but the Democratic Party There's still time. You can
Yep.
still open up your purse strings
Mhm.
and hand her campaign some money,
Mhm.
and let's get her in office. Let's run some commercials.
So I think we're at the end of the show, but I just have to ask you a funny 30-second question.
Oh,
So because we've been talking about how people project themselves, the anger that it's like a
Yeah.
mirror, or I don't know what the term is.
Yeah, it is a mirror. You're holding up a mirror.
Yeah.
When you look at yourself and you project anger, why are you projecting that
Yeah.
anger? Why are you using that shield?
So I will admit, when I do call out white women, it's because I grew up as a white woman, and so I can see.
Well, no. You still are a white woman.
All right, so I will admit that there were times where I will admit that. But do you think that Dan Bishop, the reason he wrote the bathroom bill was because he likes just hanging around bathroom floors?
Absolutely. I think he's no stranger to the glory hole.
I think glory holes are popular for Dan Bishop, and he wasn't the one sticking it in. He was the one on the other end.
It was the catcher, not the pitcher.
I think Dan Bishop was the big glory hole catcher before glory holes, before it became safe sex with COVID. Yes. I mean, and I think that's one of the reasons why he is so angry. Is because he didn't want attention.
There's definitely something in his history that makes him so anti-LGBT, whether he was a drag queen at one time or fantasized to go on RuPaul's Drag Race or is supportive of his closeted gay son or whatever it is that drives him.
I think his son is closeted gay.
Oh, he's flaming.
No,
because I've had interactions with him.
No heterosexual college white guy would be so flamboyantly theatrical.
I
gotta paint on you and spray paint. Oh, these women of color painted me on my abortion site. I mean, a straight white guy, a heterosexual white guy, cis, I guess is what we call them, or
a cis male,
or whatever.
Somebody strong in their their manhood.
There's confidence in that, and I don't mean to say like make it
so
like
I have
women
a lot
are
of
negative or
straight cis male friends that are very secure in their masculinity, and I'm gonna tell you what. I've hugged on them, I've kissed them on the cheek, and have never once questioned me or questioned their sexuality or anything, because they're secure in their sexuality.
Exactly.
And
that's you can
they'll
tell
even
that.
sometimes jokingly hit on me.
You can see that with his son and even him.
And
there's some kind of like
when a
freak
conservative
thing going on,
especially a conservative like Kavanaugh or Bishop or whatever, gets so
especially
emotional. It's so emotional and just clutching their pearls and getting so drama queen and so emotional. You go, wow, what are you hiding?
Exactly.
What kind of freak show are you hiding? Just do it so we can all laugh about it and then get it over with.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, you're projecting something that you're internalizing.
I agree.
And what a better world we would have if everybody would just live
be themselves.
Freely, transparency.
Exactly.
We just end all judgment.
Yes.
And if you believe in Christianity, then let God judge you later on when you hit the pearly gates. And just with any religion, let your God, whoever you pray to, that flaming ball in the sky, just let them do their job.
Yep.
Don't do Jesus' job for you. Jesus will do that. Peter will do that.
Speaking of Jeebus, I'm hungry.
I'm hungry too.
All right. Thank y'all.
But
we'll see you next week.
And love one another.
We're mask up.
Mask up.